Hello there, and welcome to another Villa Veracino Twitch stream where we're going to be talking about the most recent episode of Andor while playing some Star Wars The Old Republic.
Hey everybody, it's Matt and Kristy playing our characters Toombs and Banshila. Exciting episode of Andor, building up to the climax of that chapter as we were expecting. We're going to fill the time in while we have a conversation about it by running through a flashpoint that is directly contributing to some Galactic Seasons awards going on in the game at this point in time. Flashpoint I don't think we've done in a little while, but historically we've run it many times, so hopefully it'll come back to us pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's an old one, but a classic and one that we're familiar with, so we don't need to sort of really be stressing too much or taking too much sort of concentration, so we can get stuck into our chats about that exciting episode of Andor. So I guess without further ado, we'll jump in and get started.
Yep, through the purple door, and we'll probably go full clear. Run all the bonus side missions on this one as well.
Yeah.
I think that'll take over, give us enough time to have a bit of a chat. That episode of Andor, 90% of it was set in the prison, pretty much. 85 to 90%.
Yeah, which we kind of were expecting based on the previous episode when you said that it was all going to build up to something in this episode, so that was very exciting to see. Get through these opening cutscenes and we'll get stuck into the combat.
Alright.
So,
Ilum's, just as a side note, Ilum's one of the favourite original planets. It's got some really awesome scenery, some really great skyscapes.
yeah, well, it was one of the sort of the original sort of ending planets. It was level 50 planet when level 50 was the cap. So, yeah, so it was where a lot of the storyline all kind of reached a pinnacle, and it was where some of the hardest content in the game was at that time. So it still sort of sticks in our minds from that time. So we're just going to go for a full clear, kill all the sort of all the mobs to start triggering all the bonuses and all that kind of stuff for the extra points. But yeah,
just trying to think at a highest level, summarize that episode. In many ways, there weren't too many surprises, not in terms of the mechanics of the prison escape. It wasn't overly complex. It was just a necessity that happened at that exact point in time. They had one. It was critical. Everything came to a point. They knew that the captors were afraid of a uprising, and their greatest opportunity was when a new person was coming onto the floor. That was only going to happen to replace the prisoner who passed away last week. So everything sort of came to a head in a predictable manner, and on the whole, that wasn't. I don't think it was too surprising that it all panned out the way it did.
No, but I still like seeing it laid out. Like it wasn't like, oh, that's so boring or anything.
I'm not describing it as a negative by any stretch, because it was fun to see all the detail. And the point that was really stood out to me was it gave opportunities for some of the most impassioned performances from both in the prison instance of the prison escape. Andy Serkis, when he was rallying the rest of the crews on the different floors to escape.
Yeah.
And then later, under different circumstances, Luther Rail talking about using the tools of the enemy to defeat the enemy.
And what he and
speeches.
Yeah, and what he is giving up for the cause.
Well, that line that I just spoke, I think, really highlights a lot of what this series is about. Having to resort to the level, the great morality of the empire, of the enemy, in order to beat them. And I've heard it described in a different way elsewhere. I've heard it described as, sometimes, in war or other circumstances. It's upsetting that people have to get their hands dirty so that everybody doesn't.
Yeah.
Someone has to do the black ops, the extremely unpleasant, some long, deep philosophical arguments about the true necessity of it all, but the reality of situations like this is that you can't fight the Empire by being nice guys the whole time.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see Mon Mothma grapple with that a lot.
Okay, yeah, well, that's a whole different storyline. It escaped me for a second there, but you're right. Yeah, she was dealing with effectively a corporate mobster.
Yeah.
And his price for his involvement was a arranged marriage with their daughter, which was a line she wasn't willing to cross.
Yeah.
Not sure where that's gonna go.
Obviously he wants the family connections with sort of a prestigious family, one that would sort of carry a lot of political importance and weight.
It seems to be arranged marriages seems to be a bit of a thing, and without they haven't explicitly said it, and I don't know to what extent it's been discussed in other material, but it seems to be that it's just straight up arranged marriages.
Chandra and custom. Quite young as well.
Yeah,
she was about 15 or something.
Yep.
So
well, 15 was the time at which it would take place.
So I guess from the mobster's point of view, that if her daughter's going to get sort of signed up to marry some stranger that she's not really in love with, then, let's come to something that's a little bit, we get something out of it. She has, somebody that is going to give her access to the sort of the, not shadowy, but sort of the way that she is having to conduct business with her own money. She obviously she's got family wealth because they mentioned that a few times. Not just the fact that she's a senator and stuff, but, and obviously her position.
We'll have to come back,
is something that has a sort of intangible value to it.
Yeah. It was an interesting development, that arc, I think, that sub-arc for this episode. Because they've been building up over a number of episodes to Tay, her Changeling friend, helping with, funds and with access to this individual.
There's also a tension that she has with her daughter. I'm just trying to figure out which way we're going.
Oh, this got to get this turret over here for
okay.
That
we know that her daughter's not her biggest fan. Sort of sees her as a bit of a, I don't know, killjoy, buzzkill sort of thing. Like this doesn't, that's just sort of focused on trying to do good for the galaxy and not really on her, I guess, and harbors a bit of resentment. But she doesn't want to sort of use her daughter in a political sense, or
it's still important to her. Call that David Angelari in chat. Hey guys, thanks for joining in again.
Yeah. Hi David, Jalari says, wow, another fantabulous episode. Yeah, I was so looking forward to this episode. Just my brain's just gonna be scattered all the different sort of things that was in this episode. We didn't see Saw Gerrera in this episode, and we didn't see Cyril Khan after that really interesting interaction between him and Deirdre in that previous episode. I was really curious to see if we're going to get an update on that, but not this episode.
Speaking of, we didn't see Saw Gerrera, but I thought about him because in Rogue One, he was kind of painted as the outlier in terms of the rebellion, or one of the
methods that he was
rebellion partisans.
Yeah.
But boy, Luthen Rail's giving him some competition, isn't he?
Yeah. No, that's a good point. We're sort of seeing a little bit more of a sort of an intimate look at these sort of desperate early times, and what it's sort of going to take. And I guess there's sort of a feel like you've got to really sort of blow up some stuff to get the people that are just towing the line, behaving like good galactic citizens. They're going to have to like really rile some people up. And to get the Empire to do what they know that they're going to do, they're going to have to like really provoke him and stuff like that. And yeah, it's I really like Luthen Rael's character. I really want to know if we will see him in subsequent season. I really hope we do. I think he's too interesting.
Well, there'll have to be a whole chain. I mean, we heard just in the past week or so, I think Tony Gilroy did say that, I don't know if he meant necessarily a lot, but certainly a lot more of the focus of season 2 is going to be on Yavin and the rebel base there.
Yeah.
So whether or not Luthen Rael carries over, that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
I agree. To see him.
I guess there would be benefit to him being a sort of a Coruscant contact, even after whatever is going to happen at the end of the season happens. It's kind of interesting the way that the series works. You can kind of see a trajectory, and then it builds up to a crescendo, and then you're suddenly left like, I don't know what comes next. Each of these sort of episode arcs, like I didn't know what was going to happen after the Aldani heist. And now I don't know what's going to happen. Is he going to like, is he on the run? Is he going to try and get his money back? Does he care about the money anymore? Is his friend going to basically connect him up with the rebels because they escaped together?
He's only partially escaped at this point. I think.
Yeah, he's still on the planet.
Water, and not many of them got out of the water. There were sort of searchlights in the distant background, implying that those that hadn't got out of the water yet were going to be being targeted. So I mean, a desolate.
Well, the Aldani is clearly a bit of a quiet planet, but that bombing attack, blah blah blah, made galactic headlines. So you have to wonder if this prison break will also make galactic headlines, and is going to sort of capture attention. We know that there is a bunch of people that are still looking for Andor. Is he going to be on like a list of fugitives? Is that where Cyril Khan's going to come back in? Because this whole time the Empire hasn't figured out that they had him in custody.
Just in that chat there, they were saying sort of keep praising Andor's writers, directors for revealing information about future seasons. Yeah, I agree. It's kind of nice to know. It manages expectations. It doesn't things don't get an appropriate level of hype. And I suppose mostly in terms of knowing there's only going to be 2 seasons of this, and that's just how the story fits. Just knowing that in advance makes it easier to fully appreciate it in the moment.
Yeah, I think it gives a sense. Sometimes you wonder whether show writers know the grand scheme, or whether they they tackle each season, and then at the start of the next season, they're like, okay, what are we going to make this one about? And you sort of get a sense that you don't really know where it's going to end up. This show is giving me very much they have a beginning, they have an end, they have a whole bits in the middle that they know that they're going to link up, Cassian with Rogue One. And to a certain extent, making any kind of prequel show, it's going to have to link up to Rogue One. But I like the fact that it feels very thought out. This isn't just, let's just try and fill a whole bunch of episodes because, people are going to watch this and we want to make money. Chalari says, I'm curious what they're going to do with Cassian's mother. They kept mentioning her the past few episodes. Yes.
I know, they only really teased the goings on Ferrix pretty briefly there. We just saw flashes of people being involved. We saw people being brought to Cassian's mum's apartment.
Did I hear right in the fact that they were sort of whispering that she needs to take her meds or something like that? It kind of sounds like she's sick and...
But we saw lurking in the background one of the Imperials, as far as I could tell or remember.
But we also saw
Cinta,
yes, from Aldani, watching the goings on as well. She's sort of there to watch because they are assuming / hoping that Cassian is going to basically reconnect with his mother. And they're basically waiting for him to do that. Of course, nobody seems to be aware of the fact that he was in prison, so of course he wouldn't just be randomly showing up there. But yeah, it's really interesting to see. I hope we see like a really sort of interesting way of these threads crossing over. Like seeing like Val was related to Mon Mothma, that was fun. We're sort of seeing, now we know, like, the whole sort of revelation that they had a spy inside ISB, and who that was. And
that's a pretty heavy interaction, that one with Luthen Rail.
Yeah. That he's basically,
it's treating everybody's assets and...
Yeah. And not letting them...
It's very much a parallel of the Enigma code-breaking machine from
yeah,
to,
where
you can't show your hand. You can't show your hand, and you have to ultimately end up.
He knows that
you could save.
Yeah, because they talked about the fact like they'll walk into a trap because they'll know you're coming, and he's like, well, that's 50 men. Having somebody on the inside of the Empire is worth more to Luthen than the lives of 50 men. It's sort of like an unbuyable sort of position and value, and he is reminding him of just how crucial that is. Basically, yeah. Not quite threatening him, but sort of, rather forcefully reminding him.
That everybody's trapped in their roles, basically.
Yeah. That you that in this kind of situation, you don't just get to just decide that you're done and you walk away. And I had a feeling that this was sort of Luthen's fate, as it were, that he knows that that he's sort of this is it for him. This is his all or nothing. That he's uncommitted.
Yeah. So get in position, make sure we're aligned. I don't think it's going to be hard, but start on the left.
Okay. And after all of that, we still don't really know what machines they were making at the prison.
I saw someone joke online that I think they're making the superstructure for the giant letters that they use in the opening crawl of the movies. But yeah, it's kind of fun that it just remained ambiguous.
Lots of metal bits to throw at Imperials, though. That was kind of fun.
Yeah. During the prison break, Damon pointed out in chat, the guards were at least good shots compared to stormtroopers, but yeah, they were shooting fish in a barrel. Pretty much, I wasn't expecting a lot of people to survive, but I guess everybody that was actually involved was. So said the starting point was that they were dead already, and got beyond that, then obviously there's a fraction of the proportion that got beyond that, and that was
that they knew when Cassian came in that there was like that sort of that new order where their sentences were essentially made up. They just wanted a reason just to sow fear and just try and sort of crack down so hard that everyone else would stay in line, but it's backfired. And they're like, well, if we're just going to be sentenced to basically life or death in sort of servitude in prison, then, there's no point behaving anymore.
Yeah, it's not just prison, it is prison labor. They have,
and they can be tortured at will and killed on a whim, and that's not in existence. That any of them. And I think it's interesting they don't go into. I thought we might have had scenes like a "What are you in for?" type thing, you know. And you sort of. I like the fact that they didn't really focus on the fact that it's a prison, that most of these people have committed a crime at some point. Because I think at this point it doesn't actually matter. None of them deserve the punishment that the Empire is doling out, that these people are just being worked to death until they just keel over, or just kind of can't take it anymore, and then they just decide that they, like they said, they killed 100 men because they didn't want them sort of realizing that there was no way out. I'm just going to clear these ones out the back. And I think the show is doing a good job of sort of really painting just how desperate the galaxy is at this point. The circumstances that people are living in to basically form the rebellion. Sorry, there's one cluster back here I missed.
There's a couple of things I liked that felt quite interesting in the prison scenes. The control room was basically a white version of the Death Star.
Yeah.
The sort of command consoles were straight up taken from the Death Star set. That felt very appropriate, very Imperial. I'm kind of glad that they didn't kill everybody in terms of the Imperial Guards.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a point where I thought, like, that Cassian might have just killed the Imperials in the control room just because they're like a loose end, but he only killed them if they were like, you know, actively trying to kill him and stuff like that. Like, he's not just like, okay, you're an Imperial, I get to kill you because you're a bad guy.
Yeah, and I think that restraint was cured. It made us just a little bit more sympathetic to Cassian.
I mean, he did kill one in the control room just kind of out, but he knew that he... Yeah. I think they needed to basically prove that they mean business.
Oh, yeah, at that point they weren't free until things were shut down.
Yeah, they knew that somebody in the control room could basically fry the floor, or yeah.
But I guess my reasoning, I mean, yeah, it definitely showed that it's not just out to kill everybody, which I thought was necessary and useful. And just to finish that train of thought, because a lot of the prison guards, some of them are just guards doing a day job, but a bunch of them are effectively guilty of war crimes if they are, you know, following orders to execute people en masse. Then, they're guilty of war crimes. But you can't tell who.
I like that shot of them sort of basically cowering with like spanners and stuff behind the doors as all the prisoners are running. I think it would be fun if they became, I was just thinking about it, that costume sort of became the new sort of running of the hoods, and you have just like a whole lot of those basically prison costumes. Yeah, you could basically just do a whole group of people just like running in those. The
only thing is, I think they're designed to look a little bit plasticky. I'm not sure if they're comfortable.
Yeah. But I don't think much Star Wars costumes are ever designed to be comfortable. Stormtrooper armor, giant headdresses, helmets you can't see out of.
Yeah.
But it was another one of those episodes where I felt nervous, but hopeful. It's kind of, I feel like the show does a really good job of getting you to feel the emotions that they want you to feel. When Cassian's getting arrested, you feel the injustice of like, I was just a tourist, like that you're just like, no, they can't do that. He wasn't doing anything. You feel like this sort of outrage and despair when he's being put away for 6 years, and you're like, but he just got his money, he's just got out, and this one you sort of really feel that excitement when they're taking over and running down the hallway, and you just desperately want them all to find a way out, to find a way to survive, get as many people out.
Yeah, but we knew that a lot weren't going to make it. We knew that a lot that the guards were a major hurdle still. And
yeah, that there was.
Once they had relative control, I was still worried that someone would push an alarm that would bring a, bomb.
Yeah, drop ship and just bomb them or
and,
something. Yeah.
Obviously we knew that ultimately it's just necessary for Cassian and Mercenary escape as a minimum, but I still feared that. I don't know. I mean, we only saw 2 people come out of the water.
Yeah.
So.
And I gotta say, I'm a bit nervous because we didn't see Andy Serkis's character jump into the water, and I really want him. I don't know if they're just kind of giving us a little bit of a loose thread there, because they're gonna use him later down the line, and they just don't want people to sort of fixate on that just yet. That he'll turn up somewhere, or perhaps they wanted a more sinister fate for him, but just didn't want to show it on screen.
Yeah, perhaps that.
I don't know. I personally really wanted to see him get free. But yeah, I'm still holding out hope that there is a way. Maybe he jumped and somebody was able to help him swim to shore.
It looked like it's a long distance to swim to shore, right?
Yeah. And like you say, we don't know if others are going to be rounded up and put back to work or executed. I mean, it would be. Well, you don't know whether the Empire would just execute everyone for insolence and start afresh, or whether what they're making is so crucial they can't afford to basically wait until they have thousands more men trained and working the lines again. Who knows?
Yeah.
We don't know because we're sort of following the Cassian and the other sort of related rebels storylines. I don't know that we're necessarily, we didn't go back and see the fallout from Aldani. We didn't see what they were doing in that sort of the Imperial base after that raid. So I don't know that we'll necessarily see the prison / factory again.
Yeah. Okay, you can take a moment to read David's story in chat, talking about a real life experience that's not really dissimilar to what we just saw.
Okay. Funny true story. About 10 years ago, when I was working at Wiri Prison, a guard told me how the youths escaped by filling mattresses with water all evening. At 11, they all emptied water on the floor, shorted out the electrics, and the doors opened for reals. Yeah, I wasn't sure what Cassian was doing with the pipe. I wasn't sure. I was like, is this some sort of hydro fluid or something like that, hydraulics or something like that? Was it gonna stop the, what it was gonna do? But yeah, I think it was interesting how they didn't seem to have it all kind of planned, but they knew, because then some of them, when they were bringing in the new guy, then 2 of them just sort of turned around and started fighting. Sort of bickering and causing a distraction, and then the other one that sort of Cassian was looking at, that sorry, I feel like there's sorry, don't worry, I'm getting muddled about where the bonus is.
Yeah, we skipped it. I don't think we've got all the mining supplies. We don't that much.
Okay.
That bonus isn't critical.
Okay, we'll keep going. Yeah.
But
there was one that sort of he put this sort of spanner or something like that down his shirt, and they're all kind of looking at each other that weren't the people in the prison block basically knew something was going to go down, because the way that Andy Serkis was we're not getting out, the night before when he kind of cracked and finally was yeah, we're not getting out of this type thing. He knew. It was kind of more telling himself and sort of coming to terms with it than necessarily telling the rest of the people. But I really liked Andy Serkis's performance in this show, and I wanted to see more of him.
I think it was feather in the cap of the show, and the whole they got him, and that they gave him a role that let him play a pivotal and meaningful character.
Because he's clearly like a brilliant actor. I think, unfortunately, Smeagol/Gollum is almost like people sort of mimic it, and it's become a bit of a joke over time in the way that it kind of things that we really love do. You know, I mean, the whole prequel memes thing, you know, there's so many moments that, you know, you smile because when you're watching the movies, you think of the jokes and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that you don't love it, but I like the fact that they gave him something sort of really serious to do in there, and I think it was a really good role for him. These boxes are in here as well.
Okay.
Curious to know, like, I guess we'll find out how many others may have escaped. We knew that his friend from Rogue One was going to have to escape. I thought it was interesting that we saw him escaping with Cassian at the end there.
Yeah, he was consciously visible at a number of steps along the way.
Yeah. So I don't know if that means that the two of them will be together from here on out. Will we see them connect to sort of a rebellion cell before this end of the season? Or basically his friend will go to the rebellion and then he's going to kind of connect a little bit later. I like how there are bits of the show that feel predictable and you can see where the story's going, and then other ones you're like, I don't know how this is all going to play out. I think it was a really good balance for the prison breakout. Like, the threat, how many sort of people were sort of lost on both sides. It felt like a believable sort of scramble for them to try and take control, but not so much that it felt improbable that they would get control.
Yeah, they had to think on the fly. If there's a place for that sort of prison break cliche where you have a complicated plan and everything goes, you know,
everything's got to work like just perfectly, or else it'll all go
in terms of
wrong.
timing and placement, but you know, it's not always that. Well, it's frequently that realistic. I would say in terms of the human element. So yeah, they had a rough plan and a rough idea of the necessity of timing, and they worked together, sacrificed to make it happen. But yeah, like Larry says in chat there, that you know, the power of the rebellion is that the Empire underestimates them. They have, and that's part of what the people that try to set up the rebellion are playing on. They only get the Empire.
That their overconfidence is almost predictable, and they're going to use it as a weapon against them.
They'll get them on the back foot. They'll think they have everyone under their heel in terms of fear.
And you see that a bit in the ISB scenes where they're like, haha, we'll do this and we'll make them think it's this. Like, you know, they're just like, oh yeah.
It's just easy, like it's pieces of chess around a chessboard. Yeah.
That they're like so terribly clever, and, you know, they're going to totally keep, you know, even though they know that this is that the sort of the Axis and that there's like a whole sort of organized thing that they didn't really see before. That Deirdre is the one that put it together, and they still think that they've got the upper hand, even the fact that there's people running around with the whole connected sort of network stealing stuff from the Empire. It doesn't make them humble. It doesn't make them realize that they have weaknesses. They still see themselves as in control. So there's only 2 more episodes after this, isn't there?
Yeah, there are. So a slightly shorter chapter arc.
I still don't like. I don't know if I want to see him connect to the sort of the rebellion as we know it. I kind of almost feel like it's a little too early in the trajectory of the rebellion yet for him to just go, hey, I'm just going to go to the rebel bases and stuff like that, because we know Mon Mothma's not there.
I think he has to have a change of heart. I think he has to have a change of mindset before the.
To a certain extent, I see this because he's been for himself a lot. He's sort of just doing things by himself and stuff like that, and you could see he wasn't going to trust Luthen Rael. He wanted to be doing his own thing. He wants to be in control. But his prison break, he had to do that with other people, and I wonder if that's given him a little bit more of a sense of achieving something with a group and actually working together towards a common goal to achieve something more noble than just stealing some money to go live on a retreat island for a while. And like losing people, that didn't deserve, because he was very solidly on the didn't deserve to be sent to jail spectrum and stuff like that, and seeing just how easily the Empire is making up charges to just throw people in jail and stuff like that. I wonder if this is a beginning catalyst, or it is the catalyst that's going to make him sort of like, yeah, okay, I want to be.
No, I think it is the path. It's got to be. He won't. By the end of this, he's not going to be anywhere near integrated with the rebellion and a functioning rebellion asset or anything. But I think he's going to have to start to wanted and recognise that as his path.
Because I think everyone's like in the back of our mind, like he talks about, like we've all done things in the name of the rebellion and stuff like that. So we know that he has killed people and done some things. We've seen him kill some people and do some things, but not in the name of the rebellion. Not really in the sort of strictest sense. So I think we'll see that in the second season, but as to how...
I think so. I think we'll really see him develop to the point, because the key thing that they need to get to is they have to get to the character that we see in Rogue One, who is willing to kill his contact, because the stormtroopers are going to find them if they don't escape properly. I think that's his character development we're going to see in season 2.
He's going to become very hardened and hardcore for the rebellion. It's going to clear out this side mob. I'd forgotten about that moment in Rogue One.
I think that's...
It'd be interesting if we actually see that character, the friend contact, show up in like the second season of Andor or something like that. That would be interesting. And I liked seeing the underworld of Coruscant a little bit. I always want to spend a little bit of time seeing the aliens and the sort of locales and stuff like that. I know it was just sort of a small moment when the Imperial was going to go meet with Luthen. But I thought that was fun, seeing that kind of the grimy underworld part of Coruscant. Concentrate a little bit on this fight.
What's that?
Just concentrating a little bit on this fight.
Yeah, it took me a second, but I mean, they're not trivial, but they're nowhere near as hard as they used to be.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be awful when this season finishes. I know we've got Bad Batch a little way down the line to look forward to. We know that there's always more Star Wars to look forward to, but yeah, I mean, I look at every week that there's a new episode of Star Wars is a good week. And I'll probably go back and watch Tales of the Jedi again.
Yeah, we'll do that once we have a breathing space. Just talking of live action material though, they did have some pretty solid Acolyte reveals a couple of days back on StarWars.com with the full cast list. A few names that some people might recognise from projects around the streaming sphere, but Carrie Ann Moss from
Matrix.
of course, is Unexpected Edition.
Yeah.
I don't think I personally even heard about that one being rumoured.
No.
So that's a cool addition. And the other thing that, as far as I can tell, is pretty rock solid is Sean Levy of Stranger Things and Deadpool fame going to be developing a Star Wars movie after finishing the last season of Stranger Things.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
He confirmed that himself on social media. So there's lots of things to look forward to. It's a rapidly evolving space, even on a day-to-day basis.
I guess I'm eager for the concept of a Star Wars live action series that is just an ongoing series.
Yeah.
I don't know, because Star Wars is always told in very finite story arcs. I think it would be an interesting concept to just, like, we got it a little bit with Clone Wars, but that's not live action. You know, where they were like, let's just tell a whole lot of stories and see how many years this goes for. I think that would be interesting. At this point, the live action stuff is all, like, to a certain extent, Mandalorian, but I still don't get the vibe that it's just going to keep going on and on and on. I don't know. I get it's sort of like there's something about it that just gives me a vibe of they'll run it for like, I don't know, maybe 5 seasons. And I know you can't just decide, oh yes, we're going to make a hit TV show and we're going to run it for 10 seasons. You know, everyone wants their show to run for something like Friends or Supernatural, where it just like goes on for like forever. I mean, even The Simpsons, in one of the most recent episodes, what is it, season 34 or something that's on Disney Plus at the moment, even they were sort of, you know, actually making jokes at their own expense about, you know, with so many episodes, you know, if anybody wants to watch they weren't saying The Simpsons, but referencing the fact that you can just go back and just watch something from the back catalogue. You almost don't need new episodes because there's just so many back catalogue ones to watch. But yeah, it would be an interesting concept, and I don't know how you'd be able to do the story structure. And I guess we've seen the likes of like Stranger Things and stuff like that do so well, where they have this sort of very specific structured story arc where people love the idea of it being very, very thought out with the storyline and where it's going to go. And I guess to a certain extent, Star Wars has always been built on that because of the trilogy format for the movies.
Yeah, so once we get into a groove with a good character like the Mandalorian, it's obviously fun to see them on an ongoing basis. But I guess the flip side of that same coin is I am enjoying this variety in stories. You know, there was a point in time when the expanded universe was all quite similar. The early, a lot of the early EU novels in the 90s had a little bit of a similar vibe. There's a spectrum of quality with the Zahn's books at the top of the pile. Most people would probably agree, but there's a lot of sameness about the material, and it's only a bit more recently that we started getting, I guess recently, it's still over decades now, quite a mix. We saw the horror genre show up in Star Wars novels. We saw military novels coming from, more recently Alexander Freed, but historically Karen Travis and so forth. So I'm actually enjoying seeing Star Wars content in live action being able to be told from all sorts of different angles. This is a good mix of grittier stories that take a little bit more time to tell. You couldn't tell the story of this sort of prison break and the tension and stress that they're under in the prison and the things that lead up to it in a movie.
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell it in the format of the Mandalorian series. So you have to. I'm enjoying seeing just the freedom to tell these different stories in these different formats at different paces, without them having to all be the same and follow the same formula.
Jalari says, I think if they did one in the Old Republic, High Republic era or after Episode 9, they could do a long show. I'd love to see a horror heavy Star Wars show / film live action Rackle Plague. Haha. Yeah, just after having played the Rackle Plague event in SWTOR.
At some point it's going to happen. I mean, they played on it a little bit in the Clone Wars. They had a couple of brain slug type episodes, didn't they?
Yeah. The Night Sisters that kind of got, and the Clone Troopers that. Was it the Night Sisters? Yeah, the sort of the brain slugs and stuff like that. I remember because they did a whole set in. Yeah, it was like Night of the Brainworms or something. They did a whole set about that episode in Star Wars Card Trader for Halloween because it's kind of the closest to that kind of sort of almost like classic Universal monster type sort of style episode.
Used to be, I have to admit, I used to be of the mindset that I just wanted all my Star Wars to be, like the movies that I was familiar with. But I'm really growing to appreciate the variety a lot more these days. Partly because of the novels, I'm very partly because when I see the stuff that's been executed really well, like Andor, I'm enjoying it and appreciating that different approaches can work. But yeah, I think I could even handle just a full horror movie, not obviously just a gore fest or anything, but a well crafted movie. I think could even be fun.
Yeah.
Because I enjoyed the Red Harvest.
And the old school Death Troopers, yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Disney will ever let sort of creators push that sort of like prior to the Disney purchase. There were some pretty dark episodes of the Clone Wars. And not to say that they can't get dark. I mean, Marvel's, I'm not getting into spoilers, but one of the most recent movies, people were like, oh, okay, that's a bit dark. Darker than people were expecting for a Marvel movie. So they definitely can. On to the final fight.
Yeah.
Ah, that's right. The phases. I mean, I guess I'm kind of hoping that they'll have something exciting to sort of tease or reveal after Andor finishes, so we're like, okay, what's the next thing? But I'm also aware that, I don't know, for whatever reason, Lucasfilm and Disney love to play games with this, and you can never predict what they're going to tell us and when. Sometimes this stuff is like, even if you're not reading spoilers, it's like these big open secrets that everyone knows this is going to happen, and then then other times they have like these random left field things, and they're like, oh, and here's this thing that we're just like going to show you a logo, and that's all we've bothered to create, but we'll tell you about it, and then it gets cancelled like 3 years later because they never did anything on it. And then other things, it's like, oh yeah, this thing's nearly done, and we're telling you about it now. It's like, oh. I don't know what the rhyme or reason is, why some they announce way too early and others it's pretty much done by the time we find out about it.
Phased out just way too early.
Yeah. Cool.
Oh, okay. Yeah. A lot of people try and predict when we'll see trailers relative to expected release dates, and the patterns don't seem to be consistent. But
I know
there'll be something interesting in the horizon, I'm sure.
There's a pretty good odds that they're going to wait for Celebration next year to give us
some of the big announcements.
Yeah.
In the immediate term, I am looking forward to the return of the Bad Batch. I know it's just animated, but I enjoyed that.
I really do.
A lot more than I expected to. So it was just going to be more tales of random clones, but they gave us some good distinctions between the characters, and I enjoyed it. There's a minor leak. There's some products coming out from some company like Displate or something that was showing the clones and their new armor variants and some of the catchphrases that they'll be using. A sort of slightly funny line because Echo seems to be a little bit more prominent. And someone made the joke that they're glad that the voice actor for Echo will now be able to get a little bit more work than the rest of the rest of Bad Batch.
Yeah. It's funny.
So yeah, Bad Batch I'm looking forward to, as well as the live action stuff that we'll be getting very shortly.
But at least we've got 2 more episodes of Andor, and we know that this isn't all that we're going to get for Andor. It's nice going into this knowing that there's going to be. I know.
Before we get the conclusion.
Yeah, I wish that there was a little faster turnaround, but I guess that's the sort of the sort of life cycle of streaming. You can even the drip fed episodes. Not a lot of streaming services make the sort of the 20 to 24 episode seasons that we used to get in old broadcast TV seasons, where it was almost like clockwork. You get 24 episodes and then it would disappear for a while and then the next 24 episodes. And streaming services, we get slightly longer episodes on the whole. A lot of streaming services tend to be in the sort of the 30 to 45 minute range because you don't have ad breaks anymore. But the seasons are so much shorter, and it would be fun if we could actually really get a Star Wars show that is going to give us longer episodes. I know that if you can get something out to your consumer base faster, that way you can sort of, it feels, I guess the gaps between don't feel quite as long, but yeah.
I mean, we may also find that this is going to be, that's the beauty of, if you take a look at the whole range of Star Wars content on Disney Plus at the moment, as well as all the slightly more recent stuff, there's just so much there. I think we can very easily get into a groove of going back and re-consuming some slightly older stuff over and over again to fill some of the gaps. It's really quite striking how much stuff is on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
As well, when you look a little bit beyond the obvious bits and pieces.
And I guess we're going to have to sit down and watch the holiday special over the holiday season. I'm looking forward to the Life Day event in SWTOR anyway. That's always a lot of fun. Throw some snowballs like that, which is fun. And I can't get on my speeder down here because we're technically indoors. So that's okay. Enjoying the new content in this game.
Did you hit, just before we talk about what we may or may not do next, did you hit, you must have had Conquest. I haven't had Conquest. Should we do a quick Zerka run to hit Conquest on this? You played a little bit.
84.
Yeah.
What you want to do?
Jump over to Zerka for a couple of minutes.
Okay, sure.
Getting a little bit, conversations diverged a little bit beyond just Andor there.
Yeah.
Some pieces that we've been looking forward to.
Wider Star Wars in general.
Jalari, what's that?
Wider Star Wars content in general.
Yeah. Sounds like, I think Jalari's suggesting in chat that she's looking forward to Bad Batch in January as well. Yeah. That's pretty early, wasn't it? We don't have to wait till the end of January.
Yeah. So at least that's not too late.
And that's going to be a good thing to see. I think that's going to be like 16 episodes. Obviously, they're way shorter, but 16 episodes is pretty solid. And we do talk about it on podcasts elsewhere, and I usually remember, but there's so much going on that I actually haven't fully committed to memory the exact production timelines for and release timelines for Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Mando season 3,
Yeah.
but they're all imminent. You know, they're all things are happening for all of those.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is I try not to get too bogged down in when they're going to come out, because it just keeping that date in your mind, it just feels like so far off, you know. Bad Batch feels like so far off and it's weeks away, you know. And I'm just like, I want to stay positive. I don't want to get too bogged down in the waiting.
You mean about Bad Batch specifically,
or just Star Wars in general? Yeah, I look forward to the next thing on the horizon. I try not to get too bogged down in like sort of counting down the days to the next one and the next one.
I mean, yeah, I know. But I like to just have
it's exciting, yes. Because, I mean, they went and changed the dates on Obi-Wan anyway, so I know that Disney could change things on a whim. So I'm like, I'm excited. I know they're
frustrating. I forgot about that.
Yeah, these things are off in the distance, but I'm not gonna be like, okay, it's gonna come out on this date, because then you get all hyped up and then they change it and it's like.
Yeah, I did like seeing something solid for the Acolyte.
I mean, Bad Batch was supposed to be out in like the middle of this year. And then people are like, it was supposed to be out. Why is it not on the slate? And then it was like, oh, okay. It's like 6 months later, we're finally going to get it. So, yeah. It's not, these things aren't set in stone the way that movies tend to be.
Because that was probably fully in the can and ready to go. They just did it for
scheduling. Yeah.
Acolyte is fun though, just knowing that that's going to be a completely different flavour again. Synopsis came out as well as the cast list, and it is exactly as we've heard before, set in the latter days of the High Republic.
Yeah, so getting closer to the prequel era, but not completely. So
seeing Sith and beyond just Darth Sidious and his apprentices is going to be really quite cool.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if they go a little dark with this one. Like the closest that we might get to. Not horror, but like, you know, as dark as we might get. Because we're focusing on the dark side.
The synopsis expanded on a couple of points. The lead character, the Acolyte, is someone who was training to be a Jedi at Toombs. So yeah, that's a story. There's a few good names in there. They actually showed some behind the scenes shots on StarWars.com. I don't know if you saw it today, but yeah, the Korean actor from Squid Game.
Oh yes.
Who I think might have been described or hinted at that he is. I might have this wrong. I might have misread, but I think he might have been the Jedi Master of the Acolyte of the Padawan that Toombs.
My beam is completely. Oh, there we go. I was trying to find it. He fell in the thing and I couldn't get on him. Finally. And I mean, I know they'll never make it, but I would love some live action that takes the stories of SWTOR. Like,
make it. I mean, we bring
like
up
Malgus or Valkorian. Like,
it was just in the past week that we saw reveals of gaming greats action figures for KOTOR characters.
Yeah.
The Republic, Bastila Shan, and Darth Malak. And my understanding is that they were based on the representations of those characters in the remake version of Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, because their details are different.
Yeah, and I think that was confirmed verbally by some of the Hasbro developers that that's what they were, the reference material they had. So these franchises are not forgotten. They're not.
Yeah.
abandoned by any stretch.
It would be like
I don't think
like
it's
a
off the cards if we go
KOTOR
deeper.
movie would be pretty cool.
Yep, the Acolyte.
It's not.
The
It is
Republic's
not
doing well.
like because you think some people go, oh, but then you know what the story is and stuff like that. But we're seeing a more and more video games getting turned into movies, like Last of Us and Assassin's Creed, and you know, like it's not like even when people know how the stuff is all going to play out, you know.
The Republic worked was because of its storytelling.
Yeah.
Even the early Star Wars: The Old Republic we're playing here now was lauded for its
storytelling.
Received accolades for its originals and their story driven. There wasn't even a way that stood out as being different because of the massive story content that it had in comparison to the competitors.
I mean, I love the stories in this game so much that I'm like not playing the story as fast as I could on my different characters because I want to savor it. I want to like, you know, play it when I want, but not like have to like, because you've got to create characters to play certain parts of the storyline again. And I'm like, I don't want to like, I always want to sort of have that ability to sit down and go, okay, I want to play the Valkyrian arc or something like that, because the voice actors in this game, the writers in this game, I love.
Isn't it? Yeah, you just reminded me, just jumping around a little bit. There's a live stream for this game in the next content update. You just reminded me of the Valkyrian voice actor when he did an appearance on one of the Star Wars public live streams. It's fun. It's fun seeing the talent behind some of these games.
Yeah, and we've been able to meet a few of them.
Yeah. No, that's just side note to jump in my head because the Valkyrian voice actor's a fun individual. Doesn't look at all like what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the point I'm just trying to make is that I don't think it's off the cards. If Acolyte goes really well and people start to get Andor has got no lightsabers in it, and it's doing well, and there's a fan base for that. But there's a huge fan base for lightsaber wielding characters.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see more content along those lines as well.
Well, I think what's interesting about Andor so far is, I guess Mon Mothma is the most established existing character that is featured in this. But I wouldn't say that she is the reason people are watching it. Her scenes are all political. That she is the connection to the, like, we've got Saul Guerrero, but we didn't see him do anything particularly actiony in Rogue One.
Rogue One, no, he was intimidating and
he's a position of power, but by his own example, by his own admission, he's like, there's not much of me left. He's sort of frail.
Like, portrayed that by showing him in a different state and things like this.
Oh, I exceeded my conquest cap.
Yeah, same.
Oh, wow. Did you get that finished?
Yeah, that took me to conquest.
Okay.
In fact, let me just have a quick look. That was very helpful in terms of Galactic Seasons as well.
Cool. I am just past 37, one notch to 38 for my Galactic Seasons.
Oh, well, so have you got? Did you get your? Did you get your cartel pack and weapons pack?
Yeah. I got that on page. That's level 33.
Yeah.
I got to claim level 34 on my character that has phalanx, and same with the next wits. And then I've got conquest commendations and a Galactic Seasons token, but I have got 14 out of 15 Galactic Seasons tokens. I've got to go spend them on something before I can claim that. And then I've got a cartel decoration and another gift. But anyway, that's just a little bit of like random housekeeping in the game. That was an excellent episode of Andor. I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, we're kind of that way with that one to have it. So with the weight on the hull.
Yeah.
A little bit of a weight see where we're going to go next week. I do like the ones that sort of wrap up the story chapters in some ways more than the ones that establish it and then leave you waiting for another week. It's not to say that they're bad content or bad episodes. It's just that we want more.
The week feels longer. Yeah.
So we're going to have to face that, but then I don't want to wish away the wait either, because the subsequent episode after that will be the final one for the season.
Yeah. Goodness knows how they're going to end it.
I'm going to open this cut-up pack, this weapon pack. Qualifies as a bronze weapon these days. It's pretty average blaster.
Tell me what the name is.
CD-36 blaster rifle.
CD-36.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm pretty happy with most of the blaster weapons that I've got from my characters. Okay, I've got Black Red Strider, Crystal, and BL-28 blaster, and a Praxon Echo. Okay.
BL-28. Oh, that's a good one.
You reckon?
The BL-28, yeah. It's got like a good Han Solo type scope on it. And I think the color crystal changes the light. No, it's a good one for companions.
It's not bad. It's got a big wooden
grip. Yeah. Nah, but it's a good one for companions.
CD-36. Kind of interesting. Yeah, actually, I don't hate that as much as I thought I would. Anyway.
Yep.
Instant.
David says, it was the highlight of my week. Great action. Yeah, I think it was really satisfying. It was the prison breakout episode I was really looking forward to. And now we've got Andor all sort of set up. It was really interesting because this episode was like minutes after the last episode when they're like walking down the hallway. You knew it was just like the dude was getting wheeled on the little sort of med bed away.
I was thinking about, the actual production of that episode and how much time they must have spent in those plain white rooms handling the same. The prop makers made all of these little bits and pieces that could be fit together and taken apart over and over again.
Yeah.
And the amount of scenes where they just must have had to do it.
All the background extras doing the same thing over and over and over and over. Yeah.
Quite just re-edit things haphazardly. You do need to have the genuine character reactions and in terms of storytelling in the right order, otherwise it just won't read well. So they must have spent ages. There must have been weeks upon weeks in those plain white, stark white sets. But yeah, it worked, and it could have been quite monotonous, to the viewer. But that all those prison scenes were anxiety-inducing in terms of where it was going to go. Oh, the amount of times I lost count, but the amount of times that they were threatening to turn the lights on the floor from red to white, or Andy Serkis or whoever steps off just as the lights go red or whatever.
Yeah.
They played on our anxiety for that sort of thing.
Yeah. That was their one great threat. So you knew that when that threat was taken away from them, that was when the prisoners were just gonna let them have it. And it was really satisfying after those previous two episodes. So I'm really excited. I want to see what the next two have for us. I'm excited to see where it's really going to build up to, but knowing that that's always the conundrum, isn't it? You want to see where it's all going to build up to, and then that's the end till months down the line for the next one. But
so next week, hopefully we'll find out what planet the prison's actually on, and
how he's going to get off the planet specifically. Yeah,
I've got no idea what they might involve.
Yeah, we don't know whether the rebellion is going to sneak in because they know that they're going to try and scoop people up, or how it's all going to come together. Very, very cool. And a good run with some Star Wars content and SWTOR as well. It's been a good evening. So
the same thing again about this time next week.
Yeah, Yep, we'll archive our
content.
chat on YouTube. And we'll look forward to, same place, same channel next week. Just after the episode of Andor. Of course, it's a little later for us here in New Zealand because our timing gets sort of bumped along when America hits daylight savings. So the episodes used to be 7 o'clock, now they're 9 o'clock, but that's still a pretty reasonable time for us to be sitting down and watching Star Wars. And I hope it's a reasonable time for all of you out there as well. So thank you so much for coming along, listening to us talk Star Wars. We really do appreciate you taking your time to come listen to us and just hang out and chill. So hope to see you all again next week. Thank you so much for coming, and may the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.